So today we're going to be talking about group coaching. And the reason I wanted to talk about this in particular is because I think this is a blind spot for a lot of coaches who get into the industry. And when they've been in for a while and they start offering groups, this is something that they encounter but don't have the skill set to manage. And so I wanted to break it down really simply here and give you some tangible tools to help you with it, because groups are a great offering. They offer so many benefits that are unique to that particular format versus traditional one-on-one coaching. But just like anything else, there are pros and cons to everything, and group coaching comes with its own unique set of challenges. And one of the biggest unforeseen obstacles for coaches running groups is quote unquote problematic members. You know, those members that are disruptive, they monopolize time, maybe they're negative or they don't engage or they don't do the work or they mess up the culture and bring down everyone in the space. And it's not that having those individuals in the group space is bad per se. It's that when these behaviors are left unaddressed, the consequences could disrupt the entire group process, meaning they can derail the group focus and the culture and taint the experience for everyone, including the coach. But this could be prevented if the coach has the skill sets to identify and manage those members and their behaviors that, when left unaddressed, could taint the experience for everyone. Now, don't get me wrong, when you are the coach and have a group with a disruptive member, it can be very uncomfortable to intervene. But it is your role to manage those dynamics and keep the group functioning in a healthy way. So instead of just like crossing your fingers and hoping that it will magically work and that people will have a great experience, like it is your responsibility to curate that. And you want to make sure that you don't fall into the trap of magical thinking or ignoring the behavior, thinking it's just going to resolve itself. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to break down 4 very common types of behaviors that might be disruptive in a group coaching container. And I'm going to give you some skills on how to handle each of those types of group members, because each one is going to present its own challenges. But like I said before, with the right approach and skills, you can still manage a group experience that is transformational for everyone involved, including those group members. So today we're going to be tackling a really big challenge and a bite-sized training, okay, that a lot of coaches face but necessarily aren't always prepared for. And again, it's how to manage problematic group members. So let's dive in. So the first type of group member that might be disruptive is actually what I like to call the leader. And I know that sounds a little weird because you would think to yourself naturally you want a leader in the group. And yes, you do in the beginning, because this participant is usually the one that will break the ice. They'll go first. They're always talking. They connect with other members. They'll be the first to engage. They will do the homework and come prepared because they have this eagerness to get started. But what can also happen is that they always tend to have the answer. In the beginning, this member is helpful because they'll open up the group. They'll start to set the norm of participation. But when left unaddressed, it can become frustrating for other group members because it doesn't create space for them to share, and they might feel jealous or shut down or not good enough. And it just disrupts the group process because other members will start to shut down and not participate. So if you have a quote unquote leader, you want to make sure that early on you encourage that behavior. But once the group starts norming and people start feeling comfortable and participating, you want to even that out ever so slightly so that a leader doesn't emerge in the group. The leader is good to break open the group, but you don't want them to lead the charge. You want to make sure that you're in charge of facilitating the group and that it remains as fair as possible. So what you can do is maybe put limitations or boundaries or expectations on what sharing looks like, or even encourage other members to gently intervene by having them be more active or encouraging them to take on more leadership roles or calling on them instead of just choosing the person who raises their hand first, right? The analogy I like to give is almost like the teacher's pet in a coaching container. So that's the vibe we want to avoid. The second type of quote unquote disruptive group member is someone who's the total opposite. This is the absent member. This member is often aloof or doesn't participate at all. What's typical of these group members is that they show up late or they don't show up at all. They don't do the group assignments. Maybe they have their camera off or they miss calls completely. And what it does is when you have a member like this and or a couple members like this, it can slow down the group process and set the standard that those behaviors are acceptable. So if you have an absent group member emerging in your group dynamics, you really want to understand what is underlying the lack of participation and build awareness to that behavior either on your own and address it with them or with the client themselves. You never want to address it in public. These are things that you want to have tact and skill with, but a couple ways that you can do this is number one, try to prevent it in the first place by having a welcome call or a coaching agreement, or standards of behavior and operation within your group spaces ahead of time. So that just kind of sets the standard. But let's say you did that and they're still not participating. Maybe you could ask for participation. If they have their camera off and something's relevant, you might say, hey, Julie, I know you have your camera off, but I think that this might be helpful for you. What are your thoughts on this? And subtly ask for their participation, maybe ask for their feedback one-on-one in an email. Outside of the group, hey, like I noticed that you haven't been participating. Are you falling behind? Is something going on? Is this not resonating? Is there something that you're wanting or needing that we're not addressing? Or you can also be subtle and make a group announcement that addresses their behavior and just reminds them of the standard. So this might sound like, hey, I know the call's right at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, and that's hard for a lot of people. Really try to be mindful of where you are when you're taking this call. We want to maintain privacy. We want to maintain presence. We want to make sure everyone's engaged. So if you do have a conflicting appointment, make sure that your camera's off and you're muted, but really try to move them around so you can participate and be present for your group members and be able to get the most value for yourself. Here's the third type of group member that might be quote unquote problematic or difficult if you don't have the skills. And it's what I call the resistant group member. So this member focuses on the therapist or the group facilitator or the coach versus the group members. They will monopolize group time. They will complain but not accept help. And they will feel like their problems are too big and too complex and more important than everyone else's. And they'll tend to blame other people. They won't take responsibility. And this really tends to irritate other participants, and it starts to decrease their faith in the group process and in the facilitator and in the coach. So please be mindful of these individuals. We want to screen them out. I always tell people that high-tail coaching clients are individuals that are aware and willing and ideally already preparing, if not taking action. Those are the best types of clients to work with. They're going to latch onto the interventions and get the results. But if that's not the case and they end up becoming resistant, here are a couple tips and tools for you. So number one, you want to make sure that you manage your own frustrations, okay? Group members are looking to you when this dynamic is going on. They're paying attention to your body language. They're paying attention to your energy. They're paying attention to how you're responding. So you want to make sure that you manage your own frustrations and don't project that onto the client because everyone's watching you. And the other thing that is a very tangible tool is only offer help when it's specifically requested. When you offer help, offer a solution, offer an intervention, and the client's rejecting it, shutting it down, doesn't take your suggestions week after week, that's what creates is decreased faith and trust in the process and in you as the coach. So with these individuals, you want to be supportive, you want to coach them, you want to be solution oriented, you want to focus on responsibility, you want to maintain those boundaries, you want to keep focusing on making progress and taking small steps forward, because a lot of times they feel overwhelmed by their problem, but you're only offering help when it's specifically requested. You want to make sure that the client's in a place to receive. And then you also want to remain healthily detached because these clients typically are in an earlier stage of change. And so a lot of times the work is going to help them become aware and build willingness and capability and belief before they start taking action. And the fourth type of group coaching client that might be a little difficult or hard to work with is what I like to call the complex client. These individuals typically have very chronic and complex trauma histories. Maybe they have some thinking patterns that are really hard to disrupt, like black and white thinking. Maybe they lack awareness. Maybe they lack willingness. Maybe they fear abandonment or have other really deep core beliefs and schemas like a fear of rejection or these rigid rules about the world that it's unfair, and they just walk around with this defensiveness and this anger and this rage that's hard to really break through. They usually also typically have some type of severe or chronic or unmanaged mental health concerns. And so as the coach, again, I would encourage you to make sure you're screening out these clients the best that you can to protect that group dynamic. It only takes one bad banana to spoil the whole bunch. Okay. But sometimes they make their way through and it's not a problem. It's your responsibility as a coach to really manage those dynamics. So if you do have someone like this in your group, it might be best to buffer their level of participation, put boundaries around what they're sharing, maybe even refer them out or offer additional support outside of the group if you think that they are just needing some extra support. And by the way, these tips are based on psychology. They're based on well-studied interventions. A lot of the things that I share with you today come from Irvin Yalom's Group Dynamics. This is a psychologist that I've been following for 15 years now. I've read a lot of his books. I've used a lot of his interventions in all of my groups, both as a coach and as a therapist. And I really appreciate it because his theory is that interpersonal dynamics will often play out in group settings, and that the group itself can be the intervention for those individuals because members will have opportunities in a safe, curated, facilitated environment to work through their personal issues as they interact with other members. And your role as the facilitator is to bring these dynamics to the surface in a healthy, curated, safe environment, identify those unhealthy patterns, and then help and guide the members and the other participants to engage in healthier, more productive ways of relating, communicating, and working. And you're providing a model on how to handle those difficult interpersonal dynamics versus avoiding them, shutting them down, criticizing them. You're really leading here. And so it's important for you to not shy away or shut them down or be mean or aggressive if and when you see some of these behaviors come out to play. It is a skill set that when you have it and can transfer it to the group members, they can carry it with them long after the group ends. And that's the power of a group intervention. You can leverage the group members, not just yourself as the coach. So when you are able to approach these issues with intention and the right tools, you'll be able to notice significant positive changes, even with quote unquote difficult members, because you'll be able to manage different personalities in a safe, supportive environment that's going to encourage growth, connection, and transformation for everyone involved. Remember, as a coach, it is your job to facilitate the process and maintain that balance of the group. And with just a little bit of preparation, awareness, and skill, you can handle even the most challenging group dynamics and ensure that your group coaching remains a valuable and enriching experience for everyone involved. And if this is a skill set that you feel would really take your coaching to the next level, I would definitely encourage you to check out the Art and Skill of Coaching certification program. So this is a 6-month coach certification where we train you on how to be a great coach. We train you on everything from the basics to the advanced techniques, some of which I'm teaching today, how to curate and manage a successful group coaching container utilizing scientifically proven techniques and strategies that stem from the field of therapy, psychology, and peak performance in coaching. And that is just one of the trainings over the 6 months. This is a very comprehensive, very in-depth, very advanced training. I like to equate it to like getting a graduate degree in coaching. And we run 2 courses a year. We have a spring cohort and a fall cohort, and our waitlist for our fall class is open right now. So I'll go ahead and throw the link in the notes to this episode. Definitely check it out and be up to date on when enrollment opens, and just make sure you have all the information you need to make a good decision for your practice. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please leave us a review or comment and share this link to listen on your socials or with your loved ones. And I appreciate you listening. Make sure to subscribe so that you never miss a new training to help you master the art and skill of coaching.